Welcome, one and all. Welcome to another episode of The Side Eye. I am Uptown Bobby.
And I'm K Clark, and I requested Uptown Bobby on his camera.
Oh Lord, hold on. I look crazy right now. That's
Yeah.
why I didn't turn it on.
Mhm.
But can you see me?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do now. Yeah. Just
right.
FYI to our listeners, we are officially up on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel now. Right now, just two videos out. We have actual video of us on the last episode. We did the start of set off my sixth sense, and then we got one episode I've loaded up from our RSS feed, which I'll get to upload the past episodes. You won't see video, but you hear audio. So we're all on YouTube. Look us up, Side Eye Podcast. So, plug,
right.
plug.
And thank you to everyone who's been receptive to our episodes, especially our latest episode where we reviewed Tyler Perry's Straw. Um, just thank you all for listening to the whole thing. I know it's an hour of your time that you can't get back, but we appreciate you. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you were here with us, so we appreciate that. Today's episode, we're not going to go fully into Tyler Perry, but we are going to talk about the now elephant in the room, his current case involving former. I guess
For an
what show was
actor.
this?
It was
Was this
it's
the Oval?
Oval. The Oval,
Right,
yeah.
the Oval, the BET Plus series. Like the Tyler Perry universe, Oval is basically his version of Scandal almost. Um, so the actor released some text messages, and I think the case is pretty much saying that he was sexually assaulted, he was coerced, he was harassed, just the whole nine. Basically, the typical powerful male billionaire throwing their weight around. Uh, and I don't know all the ins and outs, but I did read some of the text messages. And I mean, honestly, for me, it just confirms that Tyler Perry is indeed, queer. And he also abuses some of his powers by uh, appearing to be somewhat manipulative.
Mm.
Um, the some of the suggestive things he made about, it's time for you to have guiltless sex.
Biscuits
What
and
the fuck does
blowjobs.
the fuck does that mean? Um, the text with him on the speedboat, next to the speedboat, and being, I guess, flirty about him not acknowledging the stud, as he said, next to the jet ski, and I'm like, who talks like that? And then also,
50 something man does. If you say stuff to anybody else, most people would think you're talking about a lesbian, a black butch lesbian. So,
but yeah, he's like the stud next to the jet ski, and it's like, Tyler, brother, you starving out here. But not to make light of the accusations, because these are serious accusations. Tyler is pretty much in his first big scandal of his career, and basically it's like, will first of all, I want to ask you, do you think this will alter his career? And when I say alter, I mean, will he quote unquote get canceled? Will he be able to recover? And do you think this is enough to make him out to be uh, guilty?
uh, well, like in his career, I don't think it will, because from what I've seen, people don't seem to be turning against him. I think it's more like because people have been speculating about Child as far as his sexuality for years. So this coming out, it's like people are like, oh well, okay, another news water is wet. So I mean, so people aren't necessarily shocked about the revelation that he may have been, his male employee, which his name is Derek Dixon actually. He's actor on The Oval and also Ruthless. Uh, so if only people are shocked by that, and people necessarily they don't want to sort of delve into that necessarily. So they don't think that will necessarily hurt his career the way it would have had hurt it maybe 15 or 20 years ago. Um, And so I think it's a combination of that and also just the power dynamic, even the power, Tyler's image is like somebody who, built his own table and has his own studio and has helped out how many actresses and actors and hires how many people and does all this other stuff. It's like people don't, the same way. If people are gonna hold on to Puffy, to R. Kelly, to Bill Cosby, then after all that, then I don't see how this will deter them unless it gets really wild. Like it to like as far as like if you have other people coming out saying this, I wish low key, I think Christian Keys was trying to sound the alarm a few years ago when he did the IG live. He didn't say any names, but he's part of the Tyler universe. He fits the mold of me and Tyler, in terms of high horse movies. Um, Right now, it looks like it's going to be like a speed bump because I don't think it's even like a criminal trial. I think it's like a civil. I think it's like I don't think
Yeah,
it's
I
like a
think it's a
criminal
civil
case.
suit.
It's a civil suit. So
Hmm.
there's not that if it's a civil suit, there won't be like a like compared to the dead trial, it won't be like a big splashy trial of like the witnesses and court details, things like that. At least as far as I know, it would be. I'm not obviously not neither one of us are lawyers. I can't say for sure what's going to happen next, but I don't think it will play out the same way if this goes forward. I also think this isn't a surprise to Tyler. I think he probably already was already coming down the pipe, probably to whoever. Um, so do I think he'll be canceled? No, because I just think people just they'll look at it as, oh, well, he's gay, so of course he's gonna be engaged in this type of stuff, which is kind of fucked up. It's just kind of homophobic. It confirms some stereotypes about gay men, being lecherous predators. uh, in which in this case, if this is true, he was abusing his power. But I think it's a combination of like kind of, low-key homophobia and also siding with the powerful, not wanting to believe that people can do terrible things if they do some good things. Uh, that will kind of make this just slide up and by, I think. Now, if it's the first of many, then it may be a different thing. But then again, years ago, Eddie Long, he had those multiple cases of him, essentially, tricking on these young men, very, very young, barely legal men, in his church, buying them cars, shaking hotels under the name of Dick Tracy and shit. And people didn't, and and then he got on the pulpit, make this big speech about how I'm gonna fight this, and he never fought shit. So and then had Creflo Dollar, come in and wag his finger at everybody talking about, how you gonna judge a man of God when he made a stumble. Like,
Hmm.
so I mean, never underestimate the ability of some, because I have people in here that are Christians, of some church folks to look past egregious shit.
Right. And then you also know that people also are going to victim blame and say that, oh, why
Uh-huh.
didn't you come out earlier? Why
Yeah.
now? So that's always the thing. And then I think Tyler is in a situation where I'm not going to say he's too big to fail, but the brand is very enriched and into the culture, quote unquote.
Hmm.
So he can avoid a scandal like this if, the money gets paid and everything falls his favor. I mean, he's pretty much. I'm not going to say absolved from it, but
I,
it's not going to take much for him to repair his image with his
I
fans.
Yeah, I think if it, like I said, I don't know if I can see this going really left him as a bit if it had like a snowball effect, like what happened with Bill Cosby was it was known quote unquote for years in the industry of how he moved, but then Hannibal Buress got on stage and said, well, Bill Cosby, great women. And then out of that came one accusation, then another, then another, then another, and it snowballed to the point where people just couldn't ignore it anymore. Now with Tyler, if it's a situation where this is the first of many accusations like this, or if this accusation leads to like, them looking into more of his label practices and things that, go on in his studio, if it leads to like a further digging into how
Hmm.
the sausage gets made, Because right now it's a channel. Like he had Taraji in interviews, not related to this case, but he had Taraji in interviews talking about, I got paid most of it get paid by child, and we shot this in 4 days. I'm on the show. I was like, well, I was thinking, well, girl, that's probably why, because you shot it in 4 days. Maybe it should have took maybe it should have been 4 weeks or 4 months, but that's neither here or there. But if people look into that, it's like, how do you shoot a movie in 4 days? Did everybody get paid?
Yeah,
Did everybody take breaks? Are you
right.
allowed to take
Like
breaks?
what labor laws are you breaking
Right.
there?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. 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 So
so.
you look at
Mm.
so if he gets the ball rolling into his wider empire, that could be a problem. But I don't see it being the way. I just, you know, I think it reveals some things about Tyler. It's just like, what is going on, man? Because first of all, where's HR? Second of all, where it like, oh, this man, like a any random white tweet you could find it in a Pride USA, like nigga, like I mean,
Well, I think that's the power
yeah,
aspect, right? It's the he gets to have his pick of the litter,
but him, I
and
mean,
I mean
here,
that's who he chose. That's and maybe it was a game of cat and mouse.
but I
Maybe
mean, the mouse didn't want to get caught at all. He gave no signal. He kept turning that man down. Like I'm just saying, like
and
even
that's
just
probably what kept him going, the chase.
I guess, but like it wasn't even like a flirtatious type of thing. Like he was like something that takes about the guy being on the boat with him saying like this stuff. He's like, oh, that's a nice shot on the boat. Like this man's giving you nothing,
But
like
I think that's what it
nothing.
is. I think he kept getting turned down, and I guess they kept making him continue to check the temperature. That's probably why he asked him about the guiltless sex thing. What's got you so strung up? When are you ready to have guiltless sex? It's like, and then that also feels very predatory. Like you have this thing for men who don't want you. You're willing to be persistent to the point to
Mm,
where maybe like the accusation is you cornered him and you sexually assaulted him because
mm.
maybe enough was enough.
Yeah. Which this could be telling everybody to split this so much because even the suit, the guy says that Tyler would say things like, these Catherine's getting on my nerves on this show. I'm going to have to, kill somebody off. Which that can be, something to be explored, I believe, because it's basically saying that if people don't do what you say, they could be their career could be affected by you killing off their character. You know,
Yeah, which might be
which
why he doesn't
which
have a writer's room.
right, which and also why this person Derek Dixon was afraid for his own career because I heard he was making like almost half a million episode on that show because he was because
Mm,
after Tyler allegedly came to and groped him the way they kind of paid him off or like paid him off the way they kind of dealt with it is they gave him a raise told him to tell anybody else basically
mm,
you know.
mm. Typical, typical, typical. Uh, so basically, you feel as if once the dust settles, Tyler's reputation, or his image will be able to recover, right?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I don't think the core base would be bothered that much. Like I say, it's not criminal, it's civil, and I don't know, I just don't see it being the takedown, that I don't see it playing out the way it has for like a Diddy or a Bill Cosby. I just don't see
Right,
it happening in that way.
right. Because
Like
this is
it,
his first real scandal. This is the
right.
first one that stuck,
Mm,
or made it past just online chatter or what have you.
mm,
So now we go to the actual suit. So we'll see. We'll definitely keep up with this, and I'm sure it'll be fodder for people to follow. Um, I'm sure it's not going to stop what he has already in his production can, because I know he has something on Netflix coming out soon involving Medea
mm,
that he announced at the BET Awards. So,
mm.
and I don't think Netflix is. I mean, Netflix stood by Dave Chappelle, so I don't think they're gonna let Tyler go without seeing how
Yeah.
this case shakes out. So,
Yeah, I think if it was a criminal case, it'd be different. But since this is like be more civil, there's no police reports of like, this happened and evidence and videotape and things like that. Like there's no moment of like, with Diddy like him in the hotel room beating Cassie, like to people to really shock people and be like, oh, he is capable of doing this, in
right,
the same way, There aren't
right,
dozens of women coming forward saying this happened to me too. There's a Bill
right.
Cosby. So
And also,
I
I
don't
think
I don't know.
when it comes to men, I think Tyler might be absolved of some things because of it being like two men.
Mm.
I think
Mhm.
people will treat him. I think people will treat the person accusing him almost like Terry Crews got berated. Like, well,
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
why didn't you fight back?
That's yeah. You
So
know, if that was me, I would, you know, like that they insert themselves into it, like, you know, as a man, I would,
right.
you know, so yeah, the homophobia, that's
So
what I mean, yeah. Hmm.
right. The homophobia of it all. So yeah, that's also a realistic thing as well. So we'll be definitely keeping our eyes on this situation, and probably circle back eventually once more details come out and see if it actually has legs. So you never know. Tyler could just pay the money and then just move on, or who knows.
Hmm.
Um, Speaking of another Tyler, another controversial Tyler, Tyler the Creator recently had an interview with The Cut that made the viral rounds online. It was a written piece, and it was actually more so about fashion, but then it took a turn when Tyler started talking about the landscape of podcasts, gatekeeping, and other things. Tyler made the comments. They talked about, hold on, someone, the interviewer asked him about gatekeeping, and Tyler made some comments about gatekeeping.
Basically,
No, they said, "What are your
basically,
thoughts on gatekeeping?" And Tyler
mm,
says, "Love gatekeeping. Everything is not for everyone, and that's okay. People have to stop wanting to be invited into everything. It's okay to not be into something, bro. It's cool. It's chill." They then go on talking about gatekeeping music, and Tyler goes on, TikTok, talks about how, it ruins some things, and pretty much basically saying some things go viral and just have no context. Um, and then he went on to talk about podcasts. And he just went on this rant about one of the band podcasts, and the interviewer asked him, are there any podcasts he listened to? And he was like, I think we give a lot of people who aren't smart and just want attention platforms to be loud and incorrect, and other stupid people follow them. Where are the people with skills? We need electricians. We need more drummers, painters, teachers. Everybody with a mic is crazy. I just think that shit is gross. Deontay Kyle is sick. Deontay Kyle is the host of the well viral Eggs and Grits podcast.
the grits and eggs, I think, yeah,
Grits and Eggs, yeah.
yeah.
And the cutting room floor is sick. Those are the two podcasts that are in the right direction. So, me and you talked about this a little bit online, and you kind of took some issue to what Tyler had to say. Uh, we'll just go over the basics of it. You basically felt like Tyler was kind of like being a hypocrite. So I'll let you explain your take.
In one hand, I agree with what you're saying as far as, you know, not there are a lot of people who just have a podcast and they don't really care about what they're talking about. They just want to create a viral moment create like outrage clickbait to get, you know, some views on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and just make a quick buck or whatever, and go about the business. They don't really care about what they're talking about or how they're talking about it. They're just talking basically. So I agree with that portion of it. But and as far as you saying people being loud and ignorant, and I said in the chat, I said some version of, you know, well, you know, part of me agrees with part of me like, hold up, because you kind of made your bones early on as an artist by being loud and ignorant, you know, in a way. Because, you know, obviously Tyler has evolved a lot since he first started. But when he first started, he was basically doing, you know, what Eminem did in a sense. So horrorcore, shock rapping as far as his lyrical content. Um, you know, lots of jokes about sexual assault, lyrics about that, lots of, you know, dropping f bombs, you know, lots of, you know, homophobia basically. You know, think Marshall Mathers, but now, you know, with a young black kid from California, in a sense, those first couple of albums. And so it's like, well, okay, so it's okay for you to do that and evolve out of that, but not for other people, you know. To me, it kind of gave, you know, this is going to be a left of reference for some people, but it gave Oprah in the mid 90s. Like, if you think back, for those of us who, you know, watch talk shows, when he was, you know, sick at home from school or whatever, you know, Oprah pre 95, 96, different tones to the outrage. Like, she, you know, she wasn't as bad as Geraldo or Jerry Springer, but she interviewed the porn stars and the Satanists and the KKK, had the KKK on, and did some of that stuff. She did a little bit of that. But then you get to 94, 95, 96. All of a sudden it's, I think I'm gonna run on. The whole vibe changed. It was about, feeding your spirit in the book club and this, which is fine. It's good. It's probably why she lasted until 2011 or whatever. But all of a sudden her vibe changed, her show changed, and she had this attitude like, oh, I'm not them. They're down here, I'm up here. I did that, but now I'm up here, they're down here. And that's how I felt a bit about Tyler's comments. Like, oh, so you had your time being, a proud, unapologetic, shock rap artist in a way, but now you look at these podcasters who may be doing that. I don't know what they're doing because I don't pay attention to all the podcasts. They may be doing some version of what you were doing with our future, and now it's a problem. But when you did it, it wasn't a problem. So that was probably what I was, what I had to take an issue with. Just like, you know, if you had the space to evolve and change into the now this like, you know vaunted left of center artists, that has a space in the culture, why not allow other people that? Oh, you muted.
I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
No, to your point, I do think there's some credence there that Tyler can be very hypocritical. But at the same time, I think that's what makes him such a unique and honestly, at this point, a long-standing hip hop act, now a pop act, is that yes, there were shock antics and things involved in his early rise, right? But at the time, if you really peel back the onion, that was one of the ways he had to break through to people who didn't care about the music. Because to his defense, yeah, there was shock antics, but at the end of the day, he had a legible talent. He could make beats. That face, I mean, he could rap. I mean, he made music that people like, right?
He
And what
did. He
he's
did.
saying about the podcast is there's no rewarding or there's no redemptive factor. They're just loud and wrong, and they profit off these shock tactics. But I think what Tyler and what some of his defenders would say was, well, Tyler, yeah, it was shock factor at first, but at the same time, he had a real skill set. He had a real talent. Like even once you ignored the interviews or ignored the shit, he made music that gravitated to people. And at first, it was a select few, but now he's shown that he can make more wide-reaching music,
Mm.
right? And that there's um, a real skill set behind what he does. Now, I think context, he was in his early
Late teens.
late teens, early
Mm.
20s, right? Still trying to find himself.
Mm.
And I think this was the beginning of like the social media almost as we know it type shit, like really being more vocal, just saying whatever the fuck is on your mind,
Mm.
whatever. And also, like, it was something very there was like a 90s appeal to Tyler, like an edginess, that we haven't gotten from an artist in a long time. And let's controversy creates cash, man. Like people like that shit. There's a reason why Madonna and so many acts from that period would stood out because they pushed the envelope. And
Mm.
Tyler was kind of like in that lane, And as cringe as it was, it worked, right? Because
Mm.
even if you didn't listen to his music, even if you didn't pay attention to the Wolfgang shit, none of that, he stood out because he just said what the fuck he wanted to say, And I think also now at his bigger age, he looks back at that and I think he cringes as well. I think he said in interviews that, he kind of regrets some of the shit he did because it took away from the music and made his antics more noticeable than the music.
Mm.
So yeah, there's a give and take there. But also, I don't give Tyler too much grief because it makes him interesting. Like people complain now about the lack of stars, but the biggest thing about this lack of stars is the stars don't want to talk. The stars don't want to give interviews. They don't want to be edgy. They don't want to. Everybody's trying to avoid saying the wrong thing, or they don't want to say shit at all. Like as beloved as Beyonce is, can you name an interesting Beyonce interview? Really?
No,
Because Beyonce doesn't want to say the wrong thing. I mean, she taking shit now from certain people online because she wore a shirt
the
with the
Buffalo
Buffalo
Soldiers. Yeah,
Soldiers. Yeah. So she doesn't do interviews.
she don't. Yeah, she don't do it, man.
She did an interview with what's the magazine? She was the first black woman to grace the cover, or
Vogue.
I think it was Vogue. It was one of those interviews, and
I
she mentioned
mean,
something about the slavery thing. It was just
those
like,
are. I mean, those are really our interviews. Those are press releases. I mean,
right, right.
those are op-eds. I don't consider those
Basically,
interviews.
exactly. You look at Drake and Kendrick, one of the biggest beefs in hip hop history. Ain't neither one of them niggas told us how this shit started, or what started it, or how did you feel. Da, 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 da. None of these niggas have expressed it. All you got was shit in the music or shit on social media from like Drake, basically subbing Kendrick. You know what I'm saying? Or no one talks about the creative process at a certain point no more. Like people do shit now musically, and that's it when they get to a certain level. But Tyler's one of the few big stars who will like share his creative process. He'll share how he feels about shit. He just talks candidly, and I think that's a cool thing now in this space to talk to the media and really tell how you feel. And I'm not gonna say not give a fuck, but to also give sound bites that are cool, that
Mm,
travel, like I mean, you have a journalist background. I was in it for a little bit.
yeah.
That's what makes this shit interesting. Is like when you able to cover something and they give you some meat to
Mm.
go take back and actually put out. And that's a lost art that no artists really do now. Like they give
God,
you
yeah,
nothing.
I would say Gaga did it when she, especially when she first started. She would do it
Right,
well.
when she first came out,
Yeah.
right. But even now she's somewhat of a recluse when it comes to
Mm,
fucking with the media like that.
mm. Which I would say that, on the one hand, yeah, I mean, I go back and I read interviews about artists, artists in different periods, and that's good because you kind of get a sense of who they are. This is gonna be kind of a long answer, but on the one hand, I get it from the artist perspective because I mean, you think like back in the day, you like a newish artist and you starting to blow up, and you interview somebody, you would sit down with a journalist or they follow you around for a few weeks, and for whatever reason, the impression that they come away with is this person's really shy. This person's an asshole. And all of a sudden, that gets printed in Rolling Stone on the cover of Vibe, and then for the next 2, 3 years or album cycles, you gotta work through that perception of you being an asshole. You know, because it's one person that you spent 2 weeks with out your whole day, out your whole life as an artist thought this about you, and now it's the law. So I get why some artists would not be want to sound for that because it's like, I don't want to do that. I can control the narrative, so I'm going to control the narrative.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, when you have art, especially artists as large as say a Beyonce or a Kendrick, and it's like if everything is done in house, then how are we getting a perception outside of your own point of view about what you're doing and why you're doing it? If everything's in house, then we're not getting somebody else who is I'm not saying get somebody like shade room S to follow you around. That's gonna be terrible. But get like a real journalist who cares about this to follow you around and sit with you and really talk with you to get a sense of you outside and get a sense of and perception outside of yourself that may be able to ask you questions in a way that are interesting, in a way that gives us insight into you, in a way that we wouldn't have gotten otherwise with you doing everything in house. So I see both sides of it. In Tyler's case, I guess. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of Lady Gaga. I'm a fan of Madonna. And I was a fan of Manson for, he got canceled, whatever. But I don't mind shock tactics. I don't mind art prancing other. I don't mind people being provocative or getting on people's skin. I guess in Tyler's case, it's just like, in certain points, Madonna's done it too, where she shaded other artists of being sexually explicit when she was doing the same thing at her peak. It's just like why is I guess a side eye thing is when it says like why is it good for you, but why is it good for you as the goose, but not good for the gander? And here's how you made your name. Because if Tyler had stopped at his third album, Wolf or what's the third album? Wolf, I believe.
Mhm.
If he had stopped then, we had known about the other stuff. We had known about Flower Boy and Carbon If You Get Lost not in Chromacopia. No. This would have been some dude that came in and just said some wild shit and then left. after he had his two moments. That's what I'm saying. You know, some people podcasts they'll never evolve. They start as trash and they'll be trash. Other podcasts that may start very homegrown, quote unquote, but they may evolve into something. You know, I guess
Right.
it's a blanket statement that just sort of like, you know, look in the mirror, sis. Speaking of sis, with Tyler, something that I guess like we talked about was just the way that Tyler sort of became a gay icon through the back door, so to speak. You know, um, and I guess I do want to be empathetic about this because, like I said, Tyler was very young when everything started to take off, and so he never officially said like I'm gay, I'm bi. I guess you could say he's sexually ambiguous given his
Yeah,
lyrics.
yeah, I guess
Yeah,
queer would be the proper
fluid.
term.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So
pansexual, even, but he's never
yeah,
putting a title on it.
so I mean, age 19. I mean, he probably was just he may have had an idea what was how he felt, but he may have been comfortable enough to share that with everybody just yet, or if ever, or whatever. So I understand that. Why you may not have been open about that in the beginning, but at the same time, you go around saying faggot all the time and delve into that and double and tripping down the whole on the homophobia. I mean, that's gonna rub a lot of people the wrong way. you know,
Hmm.
along with the misogyny and things like that. So, I mean, he's discussed his past things in interviews, but he's never really like said like, yeah, I did that, and now I fucked up, but I did it because X, Y, and Z. He's never really talked about it in that way. Not that I come across, you know. This specifically about the sexuality. I mean, he said like he did an interview like in one song in 2015 where he said he was gay as fuck, but with Tyler, he'll say things like that. He'll say like I'm gay as fuck, and all my friends know. But then or he'll do an interview with like Master Flex, where he'll say like something about looking for like big guys with big necks, and then
Hmm.
and Flex will be like, why'd you say that? He'll be like, just stare at him. Like he'll say things like that. He'll like, throw it out and then reel it back. He'll throw it out and he'll reel it back. So it's like, are you being serious right now, or are you just saying it just like throw it in somebody's face and be so just to be like, here, take it now, no, now on to the next thing, you know. And so I guess what kind of is strange about Todd to me is that in a way he gets to have it both ways. He got to say the wild homophobic shit, never really reckon with that in terms of like how the effect they could have had or any consequences of that, and then now evolved into this respected vaunted artist to the point where he's included amongst the great he's included when they do lists of like black LGBT artists. He's included alongside Sylvester. He's included alongside uh Lil Nas X or
Even
Michelle
Frank.
Dillinger in Frank and Michelle Dillinger. He's like, but compared to a Frank or Lil Nas X or Big Freedom, she talks about how she came to her career. He never had to deal with the heat. You get all the accolades, but none of the stones thrown at you. Not I'm saying that's required, but it's just like
Well,
you know,
I guess maybe people gave Tyler grace because they always felt like it was from somebody who was maybe dealing with coming out or being out in real time. Maybe
yeah, in a way, but I guess it would benefit him to, I
explain
guess,
it. You
to
just you
explain
just
to
want
yeah,
to explain it.
explain it. I'm not saying you got to show up with your boyfriend saying I'm out and proud and have a rainbow shirt on underneath your jacket. It's just like how'd you get from point A to point B when point A was so like, I mean, he's not the first artist to like, quote unquote, really never officially come out in that career. I mean, Freddie Mercury never really came out, but he's considered a gay icon. George Michael was pretty much outed when he had that scandal with the cop at the
Oh,
bathrooms
in the
in the
bathroom.
90s.
Hmm.
I mean, Elton John sort of came out in the 70s as bisexual, but then he like married a woman in the 80s that came out again in the 90s. So it's like it's not the only it's messy because I mean it's a messy process,
Hmm.
particularly in the past 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even
Right.
early
And then I
also
guess being a male in
right,
hip hop is
right.
something that's that you would have to battle. But I think the thing with Tyler is it's like, okay, yeah, you've experimented or you've had situations with men, but I get what you're saying. It's like he never really um I guess I see your frustration being that he never came. It's almost like he's an ally versus actually being a member, right? Maybe, or it's
Yeah,
like, yeah,
I mean, I would say, I guess, say in his defense, he's never explicitly asked to be like, quote unquote, included in those
in the
things,
community,
but he is
right?
included. He is cited, and I know he's aware of it. So I mean, it's like if you compare him to somebody, I guess like Luther. Luther never came out, but also Luther never went around expressing himself in the ways that Tyler did. I know he sued some people for saying he had AIDS when he didn't. Even though like, but it's not like Liberace did or Fred did when they sued somebody for saying they were gay, but that happened too. But it's just like Luther never, like Tyler's point A is so much more controversial and barbed than where he is at point B that I guess no, I don't guess I would like for him to reckon with that in a way that makes it clear of why he behaved that way then, as opposed to how he evolved to who he is now. Was it discomfort with his own sexuality? Was it more like I was doing it to get attention, and now I see why that was fucked up in certain ways because it had this effect I didn't want to have. Just nigga something like something that makes sense to why to include you in this pantheon of artists. You know,
And also he gets the pass, kind of
but
like
that's what I mean. It's like
he's
he.
masculine presenting.
Mhm.
He does enough shit to where he can be respected by his peers because he gets to be like the ha ha. I was just like
Mm,
Tyler. That's
mm,
just Tyler
mm,
being Tyler, or
mm.
Tyler just be bullshitting, or
Yeah.
he'll just say whatever comes out of his mouth, And
Mm.
then versus somebody like Frank, who now Frank really didn't have to deal with the same level of like a homophobia, like
Lil
a
Nas X.
Luther or look. Well,
I guess I'm
see,
talking about in terms of reaction.
I think the thing with Lil Nas X is, and this he's complicated as well because
stunts. Yeah.
the shock factor, the stuff. It's like what it's like he made. My problem with Lil Nas X was like almost the opposite of Tyler. It was like, so are you a musician or are you just a nigga who just I I mean the music never matched the antics with me with Lil Nas X.
Mm.
And that was my problem. I was like, okay, yeah, he's queer, but what else can you do? Like, all right, cool,
And see,
but
what I would say with Tyler is that the music caught up to the antics once the antics calmed down, in my view.
mhm.
Yeah.
Right, right. And I think now don't get me wrong, Lil Nas X definitely did more. I feel like he was more progressive with Tyler in terms of pushing sexuality and hip hop elements forward than Tyler,
Mm.
because Tyler, like you said earlier, he got the best of both worlds. Like he could do shit like that, but then he'll pull back and be like, "Oh, that's just me being fucking crazy, or me
Mm.
being like
Mm.
shocking, or whatever."
Mm.
Or he could be, or he would. Let's say he does say shit like he sucked dick or he kissed a guy or whatever, but it's just like it's uh it's not as there's no consequences because people kind of shield him and replace it with he just crazy versus Tyler's queer, but it's just like there's a push and pull with it, but
He's not labeled in the same way that a Lil Nas X or a Sauce Santana or any number
oh
of
yeah,
like explicitly gay black male artists are. That's the difference, I think. Like and I say explicitly, I don't just mean sexual, but like they are like Sauce Santana, the nails and like the makeup and the eyebrows or like same similar with Lil Nas X. It's like he's able to sort of in the same way, okay, in the same way like Lil Bow Wow was a kiddie rapper, so he got tagged as a kiddie rapper. Lil Wayne was a rapper who happened to be a kid.
right.
Tyler is an artist who may or may not be well, it's sexually ambiguous, whereas Lil Nas X is a like a quote unquote gay artist. And so
Right.
people who listen to Tyler and hear those lines and not necessarily take issue with them and include them in all the rap back and forth and all the discussions will never include a Sauce Santana or a Kid Ken or a Lil Nas X. So any other rappers, a lot of rappers that I know that can really rap or are talented, but who are, gay or bi or whatever.
What do you think Ty made? Do you think Tyler set the table for Little Nas X and a Saucy Santana to be able to be more palatable for?
I don't know. In a way, I think Frank did a little bit more than Tyler.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because Frank,
Yeah.
I think Frank Frank was never really met with mass homophobia at all, really. I'm not saying that it didn't happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Of
But
course, because this whole thing with him and Chris Brown,
oh
they
yeah,
beef, which we'll get to in a
yeah.
second. They beef alluded because
Mm.
I think Tyler said something. No, Chris Brown went on Twitter and said something about Tyler, said something about Frank, and then Tyler said, "Well, I could compare you to I Turner or some shit," and then it just kind of it went left, and I think Chris Brown kind of started,
Okay.
taking
Well,
it somewhere where it didn't need to go.
well, I
But
think
as far
okay.
as the industry's response to Frank, it was kind of receptive because I think we just I don't know I think Frank just had so many cosigns and he
Mm.
was so talented and people wanted to work with him that it was never really presented as an issue that he was gay.
Well,
Um,
I think what also would help them too is just like let's say Isaiah Rashad. Frank is gay, but not gay
he
in the way.
presents masculine.
Right. He's not
Right.
gay in the way like a Saucy Santana or like a Big Freedia.
Right, right.
You
Or
know,
even Nas, or even Lil
all
Nas
the
X.
Nas, like, there's no
Frank never
camp
took it there.
there's no campiness. There's no explicit uh
Right.
you
No
don't
nail
see it.
polish.
You
Yeah.
hear you can hear it if you choose to really zone in on it, but you don't have to see it. You know.
Right. And a part of that is Frank's personality too. He's a very
Yeah.
mild
Yeah.
mannered,
Yeah.
somewhat
Yeah.
reserved person. He doesn't share if there is that side of him, which I've seen little specks of it like on Instagram or his little secret Instagram page or whatever. He kind of keeps it to himself. He doesn't really just flaunt that in a way that other artists
Yeah,
who
yeah, I
are
want to make it clear, like, every LGBT artist that needs to decide what's right for them in terms of how they want to present themselves, how comfortable they
right,
are, expressing certain things, whether in lyrics or how they want to present themselves. That's all it should be individual. Nobody should feel that they have to be a certain way, to be a proper quote unquote LGBT artist. You know,
right. Because
um,
even with Isaiah Rashad now, do we consider him an LGBTQ artist
what,
because he's pan or he's fluid or whatever, and there's
but
tape?
yeah, I guess it depends on how he identifies too. It's really
Hmm.
because there may have been a maybe his little experience he wanted to try something. Just have to get caught on tape. I
Right,
don't know. The same with Tyler. Like I said, Tyler has said things in his lyrics, but he hasn't really come out and unequivocally said I am gay, I am bisexual, I'm pansexual, whatever. He just has put it in his music. You can just take from it what you want, which is that is. I mean, that's fine. I don't think Tyler has to show up on the red carpet holding somebody's hand or be it a
or
proper way
or he doesn't have,
necessarily.
yeah, right, or be a
It is
vocal
right
about.
here. I mean, anyway, it's helpful because I mean it advances the cause of people that human LGBT rights in general. I mean all that stuff is great, but I don't think he has to be cover himself in rainbows. But I do, but in terms of his past and how far left he used to be, how he used to be, and how he is now. I guess I would just like a bit more clarity. I would not guess I would like more clarity on how he got from point A to point B, since point A was so out there and so problematic.
Hmm. I get it. So yeah, you just want, and I think too with the way Tyler is so vocal about his how he makes music or how he feels about himself or whatever, you would want that same transparency with, I guess, his sexuality
Well, yeah,
maybe.
just in a sense that, and you don't even have to be just like on a like a blow by blow, like this happened when I was 6, this happened when I was 9. Just in terms of the music and your public persona. I mean, you went from this over here, screaming on records and saying this all this it was wild shit, to now, the artist you are now, which I found the latter much more interesting than the former. And it's, just to keep it in terms of the music and everything else, how did that happen lyrically? What was the journey that took place that led you from here to here? You know, it's almost like I don't say he's afraid, but it's like almost like he doesn't want to rock that boat of like being too apologetic or or being apologetic at all because it may me feel like that may upset the former fans, which I think at this point a lot of people who liked him back then are pretty grown, so I think they could handle it.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. It's just, I mean, they're supposed to grow up too, and then, I don't think they would have any problems with it, honestly.
Mm,
Now he has, they've changed in some aspects. You got some people who don't like his newer shit because it's kind of more him really just rapping and him being more like uh an artist versus the
yeah,
more shock,
provocateur.
more yeah, derogatory, and then kind of like the whole edginess that it had once.
Mm,
That's kind of gone now. But I don't know. He's an interesting character. I think he's one of the last few rap stars who get the whole idea of what comes with it, like the marketing, the doing the press runs, um the whole push when it comes to pushing the album. He's one of the few that's still around that gets the whole process. And I think he likes that process. And I think
mm,
he also wants to be considered one of not only just one of the best rappers, but I think he wants to be considered one of the best artists.
mm.
And that's just not common now. I mean, and I hate to sound like an old person, but especially in rap, not everybody cares about that. They just either they just want to rap, they want to be the best rapper, or they like I'm not gonna say plants, but they're people who have been strategically placed in certain play roles to push a sound or just get money.
Well, I think
So
it's well with Tyler. I mean, he was like one of the last groups of people that came in the sort of quote unquote traditional old school way of like, creating a buzz in the city, getting signed to a major, making an album, promoting the album through promo appearances, then making another album. Like, him, what's it like 20 so late arts, early 2010. So like him, uh probably Wale around the same time, Kendrick, Drake, J. Cole, that whole class, they were kind of the last group of rappers to come up in that traditional sort of way. You don't like
and
the
plus
power R&B
Tyler really
side.
loves this shit.
Well, yeah, that too. Like he enjoyed well, and that's probably why he does interviews because he excels at that. Some people don't excel at that, you know, uh, and that's why they're more standoffish and more mysterious. Like Frank don't do that, you
Nah,
know.
Frank ain't doing none of that shit.
So I mean, there you go. I mean, it's big Joe with his personality more to do that as Tyler, um, you know. So yeah, I just had lots of thoughts about that as far as
And I think those are all fair criticisms and call outs when it comes to Tyler. And like I said, I haven't listened to every Tyler interview or not
mm,
all of them. Maybe he could have touched on that, but also
mm,
with the way shit go viral now, I feel like that would have made the runs, it would have been more of a talking point that would have led to some grown up
mm.
conversations about, hip hop, masculinity, and sexuality.
Yeah,
Uh,
but yeah, like I said, he probably if I was to give him credit or just to give him some empathy. I think he may see it as like, I don't want to open that door too much because then niggas will be talking about it all the time, and I'm be on the shade room saying, Tyler's whole man handles this man at this event here. He may not want that aspect of his life to be uh tabloidized. No, that's a made up word. You know what I mean? Just he don't want to be tabloid fodder in that way, but that's part of his life. He may want to keep that piece to himself, which that's understandable. And just in terms of again, I think that's a way to kind of keep that evolution of how you evolve in your music. There's a way to discuss that in terms of the evolution of your art, and not necessarily in terms of like well, first time I was with a man was I got on grind and I was no. It's a way to do it in a way that's not salacious, and I feel like
mm.
I feel like he's smart enough and artistic enough and good enough interviews to be able to do that. And for whatever reason, at least if it's when I come across in interviews, he hasn't.
And that's fair. That's fair. Speaking of an artist who has a complicated relationship with the press and also just their ranking and place in culture and the genre they perform in, Chris Brown. For those of you who keep up with Chris Brown, he has the Breezy Bowl, basically celebrating 20 years of him being firmly planted in the industry. Because I think his debut album came out in 2005,
Mhm.
and that's kind of when he took off with the singles like "Run It," "Excuse Me, Miss." Just basically the whole album just had a whole platinum run, and he was kind of billed as the next person, the next face of R&B. He was, he had the. I mean, let's be real. He was light skinned, fairly attractive. He was a great dancer. I don't think he was the best singer, but when he came out, he was so young to where you would let it. He was good enough, and he was
He,
so young to where it could develop.
yeah.
You know, and I think people really were excited to see somebody new, and they gravitated to him. I think he had a lot of promise, but as we all know, with Chris Brown came that Grammy night brawl where he assaulted Rihanna, and it led to a really dark era of his not only his music but also just his growth as a person. He, kind of, I want to say, grew into this bad boy figure,
Hmm.
uh, and he kind of embraced that role as a villain of the situation. I mean, which he was. You know, people always like to say, "Well, we don't know what happened, or we don't know what led to that, or blah blah blah." But I mean,
We
we
saw the
know
photos.
we saw the photos. We know what happened. Something happened that shouldn't have happened, basically. And he to this day feels as if he is an underdog. He feels like he's overcome the odds. He didn't have the media support, and yet somehow he's still able to be a bona fide star. I mean, in his opinion, and from some of his fans, they will call Chris Brown a legend. Even so much so in a recent interview with Drink Champs, Nori asked Mario, who you picking out of Chris Brown and Usher? And Mario picked Chris Brown, but it was such a weird answer because he said Chris Brown only because if he were to, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, lock into God mode, he
God
would
energy.
reach, yeah, his God energy, he would reach a level that's much higher than where he is now. And consider that where he's at now, with everything that happened to him in his career, his life, he would be even greater. So
What B.
I say
Simone
all that.
said?
What you say?
Jesus.
So I
The
say all that to
finances.
say, and I propose this to you as well. Where do you rank Chris Brown? Do you think the talent surpasses the scandal and allegations? And do you think he has a genuine case for how he feels about how he's been perceived and blackballed, to say?
No. Um, because if the Rihanna incident, if this Rihanna was the only incident that happened, and let's say after the incident happened in 2009, you know, there was never another one. And he went on to speak out about domestic violence, to how to maybe donate money to domestic violence organizations, uh, fundraise, uh, talk about, toxic masculinity, and or talk about how what led him to do that and why he did it, and say he's been in therapy, and then or even just to have any more public incidents, and he's shown there has been you see a true change of behavior over the past 16 years, and the industry still have the same stance toward him. Then I would say, okay, you know it's a blackballing going on, or it's a concerted effort to keep him out, even though he's made this one very serious mistake. But he has been very public about trying to make amends for that mistake, and show how he's changed. That has not happened. Since Rihanna, there has been multiple incidents of other women. That's Karuchi in the restraining order. Uh, but that's another woman who claimed he secret stalking her. Another woman who claimed I believe he assaulted her. Instance like the recent one in Paris, 2023, where he assaulted a man, I think at a club or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Was recently charged. Incident with Frank Ocean. Um, I mean, It hasn't been one incident. It's been multiple. That's why people always say, "Oh, what happened? That one thing happened when he was 18, 20 years ago." No, it's been things have been happening when he was 21 and 23, 25, 28, and 30, and 31, and 34, 35. He's still happening over and over again. Like it not just one or two. Like dozens. I would say probably at least a dozen at this point incidents that you could probably point to. And so, I mean, well, even sure, I saw another one. I think they asked him about Rihanna or something at Good Morning America. He like threw a chair at the window or something like that. So it was like in 2020, 2012, I believe, 2013. So I mean, has he changed? Judging by that, not really. He has gotten older, and so if he is being blackballed by the mainstream, i.e., white folks in power, I mean, he's giving them a lot of ammunition to do so. He
Mm.
has. I mean, that's not a read, it's just a fact, you know. And so if the talent, if and on top of that, I think those things may not even have blocked him had the music also evolved past misogyny anthems. Because after that incident, that's when you get these hoes ain't loyal. That's when you get the look at me now. That's when you get just the music started to reflect that too. It went from excuses miss to like these hoes ain't loyal. It went to like the music went double down that bad boy
Yeah,
toxic
and to
image.
be honest, it could have went their way without him whooping that woman ass.
It could
Like,
it could have, but it could have, but had it stayed kind of relatively clean, or like try to go, or he still was trying to be in the mode he was before that musically, while acknowledging something had happened. I think it may have helped push through certain barriers with the blackballing, in terms of like his career, But the fact that the music went in that direction along with the offstage behavior, it's like, are we surprised? I mean, shoot. I mean, he basically went to Bobby's lane, Bobby Brown's lane, as far as like the 90s go, with all his incidents with legal troubles and things like that. I mean, they're parallels, So I mean, there's the talent. I mean, he could sing, he could sing, he could dance, he can entertain, but like to me, the music, I mean, has it evolved? I mean, shoot, I think we put out like out like 20, 30 songs on it, and I mean, most of them sound like, relatively the same. So I mean, where is the evolution? Where is his 8701? Where is his confessions? Where's his my way? Shit. So God energy, I mean, bless him. I don't know. What you think?
right.
It's like
Oh, so his whole thing was, I wish y'all stop comparing me to other artists and saying me versus someone else. Until one of these artists do all this shit by themselves with no help and the media constantly fucking with them, then come holler at me. I'm trying to feed my family. I could give a fuck about the next artist of what they're doing. I don't fuck with celebrities at all, and I'm not welcome in their circles. Breezy Bowl is for the dedicated fans who actually want to be there. Fuck everything else. I've been overly busting my ass for the last 20 years, and I understand I will never be recognized for nothing more than drama. So miss me with all that shit, please.
because then you keep bringing
Um,
drama. You are the
yeah,
drama.
you always in shit. You always in drama. Like, yeah, unfortunately, your career, one of the biggest moments would be you assaulting Rihanna. That's what it is. But my thing with Chris Brown is, man, you you acting like you just went off the grid and you've been making music in a basement. You've been making music backed by labels since the
Hmm.
shit happened. Like, it's not like you just it's not like they took everything from you.
Mm.
You had more, you still had more backing than niggas who've been through some real shit. You know what I'm saying?
You
Like,
still got the machine behind you.
yeah, like
Mm.
that Fame album. That album was huge.
Mm.
Like, nigga, I don't want to hear it. You
Mm.
had all those features. You had that Look at Me Now was a hit.
Mm.
Deuces was a hit.
Mm.
Like, what are we doing? Like, nigga, no, it wasn't. Like, you got second and third chances that many artists don't get for having scandals. Um, Now the fans, I would never understand the Chris Brown allegiance. I don't get it. I think it's with fans, period. They like when their favorites go through something, they take it on like almost like it's personal. And I think with him, because it was so long ago, they used the whole forgiveness arc, second chance. And I'm like, all right, I get it, y'all, but the nigga continuously gets in shit. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And I also think there's a sort of rebellion, like a rebellious spirit that comes to being a Chris Brown fan or R. Kelly fan or a fan of any artist who's like labeled canceled. People gravitate to the fans who are already like them. It's like they get louder, they get bolder because they want you to know that I'm sticking by them no matter what, and I don't care what you say. And it's like, well, all right. Like, I don't know what to get you. Like, it's not gonna get you free tickets to the show. It's not gonna get you no money. It's not gonna get you nothing extra other than people looking at you like, damn, is
Oh,
that serious?
oh, yeah.
like, like, it's not that deep. I just don't understand the constant rebellion his fans act like they doing when they listen to the music or when they say, I love him, I ain't going nowhere. Or, because his tours do well. He toured
Mm,
last year. He did well. He had these $1,000 meet and greets and niggas taking pictures with him and
hmm.
doing all this ridiculous shit. He has this Breezy Bowl tour that I've heard people say is selling out certain cities. And
Hmm.
hey, but it's just like this underdog narrative that he's like this biblical figure that's been through the grind, like he's Job or some shit. I don't want to hear that shit, man. I don't want to hear that shit. He did a horrible thing when he was young, and he still continues to do shit that makes it seem like he did that shit not because he was young. He did that shit because he wanted to do it. And yeah, it is what it is. I think he can sing. I think he's okay. I've actually been around some people who play shit for him by him that I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that was this song. That's
Mm.
not bad at all. But does that make me want to be online and be like, y'all better leave Christopher Maurice Brown alone? Hell no. I don't give a fuck about that nigga.
Well, yeah, I think it's just that thing. Like we were talking before the podcast, just like I think it's a combination of like misogyny and also just like misguided racial solidarity. It's like the idea of Chris Brown is like, oh, what could have been? Like it was supposed to be Michael, then Bobby, then Usher, now and then Chris. But then something happened with Chris, and now it's like he was denied his destiny, you know. And so they think about supporting him, being that he's being blackballed or whatever. It's like they're trying to like they gotta hold him up because they're trying to destroy him or whatever, you know. It's like you know,
I
like
just be
like
tripping out how they.
that nigga is not Nina Simone. He is not get on stage and say Mississippi goddamn and get blackballed. Like that's not what happened.
Like he has had much success, more success than many other artists after a scandal with what he did.
And the
Like,
other things that he's done, like shoot.
yeah, like he
So
continues to surprise, and then they be calling him the GOAT and saying that no one could ever, and I'd be like, man, this it's like a religion at this point.
right, like yeah, just that's I've been talking about Chris Brown is amazing. Just like just tweet out the blue, like what happened with that? But go ahead.
Mm. But I let him have it. I let him have a moment.
Yeah.
Uh, it is what it is, but it's just an interesting narrative that he presents himself as this underdog figure. I just find it to be hilarious, and then his fans eat it up. And
Well, I think most celebrities do have a bit of that persecution thing going on with themselves as far as like them as artists and think about their careers and how not to varying degrees. So, but I think with him it's just like I think he's just bought into the narrative because he's like in his mind he's not doing he at least how he wants to present it. He hasn't done anything wrong, but even with the largest things I just listed, So he look at it as like, I'm gonna let, I gotta do it all by myself. I gotta get up to the mud because I'm the attack, or whatever. So
right, and I think his fans, I say, hey man, enjoy the music, enjoy the good times, but don't be acting like y'all out here bucking the system because y'all still listen to this nigga music. Like it's not revolutionary. Just enjoy that shit and move on. Like damn. But and then the Usher shit, please stop. Like I'm not just gonna dick ride Usher. He has his flaws. He needs to really stop making music. I'm sorry, it's not good. Stop making music. Just be a legacy. There's nothing wrong with being a legacy act. There's nothing wrong. I know people be like, oh, we need to leave black artists alone. Let them do what they want to do. If he wants to make new music, cool. All right, yeah, it's nothing wrong with him making new music. It's nothing against the law. But that shit's not good. It's not.
It's some strong singles here and there.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to put it. I mean, you know what? I will say it was a song he did that I did like, but it was very modern. I think he was featured on it. Uh, but yeah, he Usher Chris Brown not fucking with Usher in my opinion. I think
No.
Usher has a lot of hits. I think Confessions alone, Chris Brown not fucking with that. You know,
Mm,
and that's where I stand on the shit. And I think people need to let that shit go, man. Let it go.
mm,
But because even if you did the track list or whatever, it just don't compare. Chris Brown, even if he didn't touch that woman, he wasn't gonna do no fucking Super Bowl. He to me, Chris Brown, I think people put too much on that one night. I don't think it derailed anything. I think it made people dislike him. I'll
I
say
think
that, but
I think it changed the perception of him.
it changed the perception of
And
him.
it may have changed the perception of himself in the sense that he like his the image was very much clean cut, popping beat sort of guy. And so after that, he may have thought, well, they think I'm a monster, basically, into being the bad dude. Then, like you said. So I think it changed it. It changed it in that sense. But I think if he were enough of an artist, or if he was interested in evolving to warrant, I would say, legend talk or whatever you want to call it, I think he would have done it by now.
Exactly. And he hadn't done none of that shit. He's made some bops. He's made some
Mm,
catchy songs. You know, he made some shit I enjoyed. But I don't think that nigga has crossed into the lane of, R&B niggas who just be like, man, even R. Kelly. As much as I don't care for R. Kelly, I don't listen to his music.
mm,
It's almost like before the scandal reached a fever pitch, he still was making music that a lot of people fucked with.
mm.
Uh, and I think when people make the argument about all right, who's the GOAT and all that, and they mention his name, I don't really get bent out of shape too much because I know his impact and I know the talent he had, but also fuck that nigga. But it's just not the same as like I think Chris Brown. I'm like Chris Brown. Like we doing all this for Chris Brown. Like
Yeah, it's like he could
I,
you like but you could argue with R. Kelly, trash individual, but like you could say like yeah, very talented, but also you could point to like a number of artists that he produced, wrote for, etc., where it's like he had a sound that was very popular in the industry that people he you could see the influence and how it's played out in so much like 90s, early 2000s R&B. Like, not just him, but other artists. Obviously Aaliyah, getting all that, but obviously Aaliyah like changing faces and like even when he collaborated
mhm.
with Aaron Hall. Well, he pulled from Aaron Hall, but like he is beyond just him. His talent is beyond just him, you know. And so you can see, even though with all the nastiness, predatory behavior of R. Kelly, you can see why somebody could be like, "Oh, this man is extremely talented. He could be up there in terms of his talent anyway with the greats." You know, uh, Usher, you can say that too in terms of being an entertainer. He really evolved what Michael and Bobby did and made that relevant to both to our generation and to a degree that generation after us or even past Gen X. You can see he's a bridge. Chris
Mhm.
Brown, not so much. He did.
I
He's.
don't see it.
I
I
was.
don't see it.
I think he's good at what he does, but it's nothing there that's like, oh, this is distinct. Like Michael, created the lane along with Prince. Bobby created a new role in that lane. Usher created a new role in that lane. Chris Brown just driving on the lane.
Yeah, I like that. And
takes to the
I
metaphor.
agree. Yeah. I mean, you could probably make the case that maybe like the Bryson Tillers and the artists of those ilk might come from Chris Brown, maybe. But
Maybe.
even then, I still wouldn't even give him that much credit, really, because I just feel like if you erase Chris Brown from music, I don't think shit changes. I'll say, well, I take that back. Rihanna's career would change, but I don't think there's a ripple effect if you erase Chris Brown music. That would even be as nasty as disgusting as R. Kelly is. If you erase him from music, I think there would be some butterfly effect type shit. There would be
Mm,
some shifts here and there.
mm.
Usher, I feel like it would be something like that because I mean, who was moving units like Usher in the fucking 2000s R&B wise? You know what I'm saying? Chris Brown, I don't really feel like that. I feel like, yeah, I feel like, yeah,
Mm.
it's 20 years of what exactly? Like, I don't feel like that would stop that. I mean, Neo was around at the same fucking time. All them niggas, Dream, Jay Holiday, all them niggas was in the can. You know what I'm saying? Like, who
Mm.
just who just really sounds like, damn, that nigga remind me of Chris Brown. I've never heard a nigga say, oh, Chris Brown influenced me. Fuck no. I've never heard that shit. None of it. Even Mario saying that stupid shit. It's like, Mario, you dropped before Chris Brown.
Mm.
So it's like, nah, I don't think Chris Brown has made shit that just cements him on that level. But also, all this shit is subjective. So who really gives a fuck? If that nigga your goat, fine. But I just don't get treating him like a sacred cow when he's done so much shit that just really it's really just annoying at this point.
Mm.
The victimhood. But
Yeah.
that's where we stand on Chris Brown. I'm sorry, Chris Brown fans. I know it's a lot of y'all. Y'all like to fight. Y'all like to tussle. Ain't nobody. Hey, I'm old, man. I'm not fighting none of y'all. I'm just gonna ignore you. I'm just gonna block your ass. So let that be where it's at. I'll be honest with you. I'm really surprised the nigga's still here because I thought at one point between the drugs and the accusations, he would have that behind the music finale where it's like, you know, it got to a point to where, we didn't know it would get this bad, but it got bad.
It was Miles Davis voice.
Right, right. So, luckily he's still here with us. So that's a good thing. But I don't know. People just take legacy acts too fucking serious now with some of these niggas. Like the whole Little Wayne thing with the Super Bowl and Chris Brown not getting his flowers and all that shit. It's just like, oh God, okay. But that's where we stand with it. Anything else you want to mention or bring up
Oh,
before we wrap things up?
yeah, Jim Jones confidence.
Oh, Jim Jones and so we'll be brief on this.
Bowling.
So me and you had a brief discussion about the Jim Jones recent controversy. It basically is Jim Jones saying that his music is more prolific than Nas, basically. And him saying that, he's still more relevant than Nas or all of that. From a personal perspective, that's a fucking lie. I
Mm.
always saw Jim Jones as just a weed carrier. I never saw him as a star. I know people think Jim Jones had a run, like you said, with balling. It came out of nowhere, it took off. But he was never the star in Dipset. It was always Cameron, Jewels, and then Jim Jones.
I remember,
And
remember he was
yeah,
on so much talking about the Apollo once performing balling. That nigga was high.
that a motherfucker.
He floated on stage and performed. At one point, he was like doing a verse. The nigga stopped, kind of go like, I can tell you, he was like geeked out. I was like 2 seconds away from like cackling on stage for everybody. But he pulled it together, man, through the. I was like,
Right. And he's just a troll. I'm like, he's just a troll because I think he went at Pusha T not too long ago saying that, oh, no one really listens to Pusha T for real. Pusha T not a lyricist. He ain't top 25 and all this shit. It's like, Jim Jones, you're grasping for straws. want to be relevant. So you say these controversial things, and nowadays we all know controversy creates cash.
Mm.
So you say these things, they go viral, and you get some buzz. That's all it is. And then by next week, we won't even be talking about your ass. So uh, I don't think Nas would address it because that just
I,
feeds the beast
I think he posted some photo of like King shoes. Some I don't know. Some
for
on
Nas.
Instagram. I think he did. I think he did. I'm not sure, but
Do you
yeah.
think it'll get to like some rap beef type shit with him trading tracks with him?
Probably not. Probably just like some random some blip on some deep cut that everybody be like, "Ooh, got him." Then they move on. Because I mean, nobody is taking Jim Jones' side in this in terms of like lyrical ability or like influence. Like they aren't. Like I mean, Illmatic and it was written to destroy his whole catalog, in my opinion.
Right.
Stillmatic, shoot, shit. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm saying I'm saying somebody who like I mean I listen to Nas, but like I can't, I'm not I wouldn't say like a hardcore Nas fan, because there's some
Right.
weird singles in Nas's discography. you know, like You Owe Me, that was a strange song. But
Uchi
anyway, but
Wale.
Uchi Wallet. And so I mean, even with those, it's like still, I mean, you go down the list, World is Yours, If I Ruled the World, I Give You Power, Memory Lane, One Love, One Mic. Like, I mean, Jim ain't got none of that. Never, ever,
No, man.
ever
And
took
it's
from
just
him.
yeah, I just don't hear people saying, man, I can't wait to for that new Jim Jones to drop. He's a legacy act. Matter of fact, the last time he was on a stage, I saw Jada Kiss was embarrassing you.
Mm.
Hey,
And
they
Jada,
mopped the floor with y'all niggas.
and Jada probably wanted to go, whenever whenever he started talking about he was better than Nas, but he didn't. He was on Fat Joe and Nas's show. I mean, Jadakiss' show, and he said it. Or he already
Mhm.
talked about it. And Jadakiss was sitting on the side. I'm just thinking like,
Like, all right. Like you ain't even better than me.
like fuck the frail shit.
Right. Because he
You ain't gonna
proved
make
that.
it.
And I thought I ate crow on that because when they did the little press, I said, "Oh, Dipset go beat the locks." What the locks got? And then shit. Jadakiss said, hold my beer." But
Dipset, well, I can't speak. Well, I know Cameron, some people do hold up Cameron as like a great rapper. I mean, I'm saying he isn't, but I'm saying Dipset was an example to me of like swag outweighing skill.
that's exactly what it was. I agree wholeheartedly. It was just some cool niggas, man. Some cool niggas from
Mhm.
Harlem.
Like the
They had
catchphrases, the fashion, yeah.
yeah, the fashion, the catchphrases. Even though some of them catchphrases was very homophobic, like no homo.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they had a moment. They had a moment for
Hmm.
sure. But it was that it was a moment. It came, it went. You know what I'm saying? And Jim Jones is in his time machine trying to stir shit up, and it's like, dude, go away. We're not listening to this shit. We're not listening. We're not here. Nobody just wants to see Jim Jones. Jim Jones, you're more known now for being a reality TV star, uh, not marrying that woman and dragging her through the ringer, than you
Mm.
are for being a rapper. So enough. But
So,
there we have it. That's another episode of the Side Eye. We appreciate y'all so much. Like I said, y'all gave us such great feedback from that last episode. Like K. Clark said, we're not just talking into the ether. I try to be intentional with how I share the podcast.
right.
I send it directly to people who I think will listen to the show. Or I tell them to follow it because I ain't trying to catch the ire of Tyler the Creator and be labeled another lazy podcast nigga. But I think we have something that is it matters. It fits within the zeitgeist. So I'm selective with who I share it to because I don't want to spam nobody. I ain't trying to just beat somebody over the head, with something they don't want to listen to. But for you who listen, who's receptive, who tell me, oh, I listen to it all the time. I'm excited when I see a new episode. Thank you, Kay Clark. I thank you. You're the visionary behind all this. You asked me that I want to do it. I was like, shit, not really. But then I was like, you know what? I was like, man, K Clark don't never ask me for shit. It's the least I can do. And the execution, the vision, the way you share shit, you edit, all that. I appreciate you. I thank you for all the hard work, and I thank y'all for listening and continue this going. Because I mean, we do this because we just do it. We're not getting paid. We ain't got no sponsors. Maybe that'll change
Yeah,
one day. But for now, we just two people who find free time to sit and share these thoughts with y'all. So thank you.
yeah.
So once again, I'm Uptown Bobby,
And K Clark.
and we are out. Bye.